we're going to start talking about some different types of fittings that we use in plumbing and maybe some of the reasons why we use certain things. So on this side of the board, I've got some end feed fittings, 2 Yorkshire solder fittings and a couple of compression fittings here and here. I've got the press fit fittings on there, and I've got these white ones in the middle are John Guest push fit fittings. So the first thing we're going to talk about, what we made other week was the 15mm full crossover to go over a 15mm or 20mm pipe. Depending on the distance below, we can make that bigger. But we can actually buy ones already pre-made with a solder joint on either side. But obviously, the difference in size is massive. So I can make this one up if I've got pipe insulation or go over something bigger, would be ideal. That is really nice and neat and we can use in certain situations. They do them in 15, 22 and in 28, and that is a 22mm version. You can see again, a lot bigger as well. Really handy for certain situations. We've went through the Yorkshire fittings. We've got 90-degree bends on the end feed. You get all the same fittings, but also these fittings we've got, these are called 45s. This one is a Yorkshire 45, 15mm, and that's an end feed fitting, 45. Obviously, again, both solder fittings. Prep the pipe, clean it, flux it, and then solder it. The two ones I've got here, the ones that are chrome in colour, this one is a straight isolation valve, and this is a bent isolation valve tap connector. So this one, with a loose end on it, goes directly into the tap connector, on a ball valve, maybe on a sink if you wanted, and you've got an isolation valve in the end, quarter turn valve, in line with the pipe on, across the pipe off. The press fit fittings, like that, and the bigger one, 20mm elbow, when you use these, we've got to use the press fit gun. You can't solder these, we can't tighten these. I will do this in a second, but we've got to use a press fit gun on this type. We have the compression fittings, like the isolation valves. They have a nut and they have an O-ring or an olive. This one's brass olive. They also come in copper as well. These have got to be tightened, or they're called the mechanical fittings, which means you've got to tighten them with a spanner and a pair of grips to seal the water in them. Again, do them in a second. But the one I'm going to talk about right now is the John Guest or the push fit fittings. These are a lot more common on building sites for first fixing. The second fixing, the bits you can see, are all mostly done in copper. The John Guest fittings, if I pick a 20mm elbow, it makes it easier. The reason we use these in college is because they are, if I show you, demountable. It means they all come apart. We've got the sort of nut with a grab ring in it. There's small metal teeth in there that grab onto the pipe as the pressure comes on. We have a washer, plastic washer, which is grey in this type, and a neoprene washer, which seals the fitting so the water doesn't come out. The reason we use these in college is as the washer gets damaged or bits get lost, it means at the end of the year we can get all the ones that are bits missing off, we can take them apart and make new fittings and we get a couple of uses out of them. And it means it's less expensive for us to buy fittings at the end of the year. They come in everything. We've got elbows, we've got the T-pieces, again 22, 22, 15 on the branch. We've got 22mm equal T's. We've got the old 22, 15, 15. Straight couplings, stop ends, and reducers. Now I'm going to put a couple of these together and show you why we use them. So I'm going to do the 22, 15T first of all. I'm going to grab the pipe. Again, plastic pipe. This is barrier pipe, and it's barrier pipe because if you look end on, you can see 3 layers. There's a white layer on the inside, a blue layer, and then the white layer on the outside. This makes it a bit more rigid and not as flexible. Also, if anything, rodents, infestations or things like that in attics or under floors, if they nibble through, they've got 3 layers to try and get through. And also, if I'm pushing that through in a building site and there's a screw or a nail, hopefully it'll just maybe tear or scrape the first layer and won't go through the other 2 and keep the integrity of the pipe. So, when most people are using this pipe and these fittings, what they don't understand is you've got to use inserts in the pipe. So this one's a 22mm insert, this one is a 15mm insert, obviously for different size of pipes. The inserts, just do what they say, they insert or they push it into the end of the pipe, and that's it fitted. Now what that does is it supports the pipe. Sometimes when this pipe gets really hot, maybe there's a fault in the hot water or the central heating system, that has got a tendency to sort of flatten out a small bit just because of the makeup of the plastic. Even though it's barrier pipe, it will lose a bit of that sort of, for talking sake, roundness of the pipe or the outside diameter. If that happens in the fitting, it comes away from the neoprene washer or the seal, and then we get a leak. Also, if someone bends this pipe right on a fitting, there's a bit more support inside the fitting and just past the washer, and that holds the seal. So again, there's sort of safety features on these sort of fittings to help sort of just strengthen it and fit it. These inserts have got to be fitted in every fitting. So every end of fitting I've got in a T-piece or an elbow or a straight, you've got to have an insert. The John Guest ones are plastic. There's another brand on the market called Hep 2O. Their inserts are sort of aluminium or steel, and you fit them in the same thing. And they've got to be done. So to put the insert in, because of that washer, we've got to make sure that when we push it in, it's not going to tear the washer either on the fitting or on the insert. So what we can do is, we have a thing called silicone lubricant spray. We either spray fitting a small bit or can spray inside the fitting. The reason we've got to use silicone spray is because it's non-water soluble. It doesn't evaporate and water doesn't wash it off, which means when I go back to the fitting at a later date, it's easier for me to get off and get on. The silicone stuff also comes in a small tub. Again, dab your finger in, put a small wiping on it, on the outside, and then to get the fitting in, it pushes, and I'm listening for that noise. In college, when most of the learners have started using these pipes, they don't push them fully home. So what I try and say to them is, if I do another piece of pipe, if I cut another end off, again, I've got to use the correct tools for the jobs. I can't use the pipe slices or the pipe cutters. Because of the way they work, all they do is sort of keep going around the pipe forever and never, and don't actually cut through, but they will score the pipe. I can't use a junior hacksaw or a hacksaw on this. I get a raggedy edge on it, and when I push that in the fittings, it could again rip the washer. So I've got to use plastic pipe cutters for cutting plastic pipe. All you do is put it on where you want, where you've marked the pipe, squeeze, and maybe a small twist. Again, I get an insert, I put it in the pipe, in the end, make sure it's pushed fairly home, and then I'm ready to fit this pipe. After you use them for a certain amount of time, you get to know when you've pushed it fully home. If you're not used to it, on these fittings, on the elbows, the T's, the straights, the bends, just past this nut, there's a very, very small thin line. That's the insertion line. That is how far, if I push that pipe in, it goes in that far to the fitting. I can see it from here, you probably can't see it on the camera, but what I can do to make sure that I push it fully home is if I get a pen and I hold the fitting up to the very end, the insertion line, and mark the top end of the fitting. I can see that that line has got to be at the top of the fitting when I push it in. And then I know it's pushed fully in. I give it a small spray to make it easier, and then I push it in. And if you watch the mark that I've got on it, that should roughly be touching the top of that fitting. So at the moment, I can feel it. It's not pushed fully home yet. If I give it a twist and push it in, the mark sort of disappears. So I know right away it's pushed fully home. To get these fittings out, these nuts here, there's a sort of jam nut on it. All you do is loosen it with your fingers. I've got to push that end in, and then I can pull the pipe out. If I do it in a 15mm, if I pull that out just now, the insert will stay in the fitting. If I show you in the 15mm, if I put a bit of spray on it, I push the pipe in, again listen for that noise, that's it fully home, and I can feel it. So the nut, I can tighten it, and that gap disappears. So I've locked that off. When I do that, that jams the grab ring on those teeth, and it means I can't get that off. I can't push that top ring in. It won't come apart on me. To get this pipe out, all I do is loosen that top ring, that top nut off. That will stop at a certain point. I can force it past it, but it will stop. Then I squeeze that in, give the pipe a twist, and it comes out. And I can see on the pipe where the teeth have bitten into the pipe, and that's where it's grabbed it. So again, if I push the pipe in, lock it off, I can't get it out. It's a safety feature. If I want the pipe out, I'll loosen it off, push that in, and it comes out easy. So I'm going to put the insert in here now, because that's what you meant to do. I push it in on the table, somewhere a bit tight, push it up, and then lock it in. And now, that's those 3 fittings in. I lock the 222mm off. And now nothing's going to come apart on that. When I put pressure on this, you may see the pipe moving a slight bit as if it's trying to push it off, and then the grab ring jabs it and the O-ring seals it. And that's how push fit fittings work. A couple of different brands in the market. This one is John Guest. The next fitting I want to show you is the press fit. These are a lot more in use now. The expense on these is the equipment you've got to buy to use it. And this is a Bosch press fit gun. So if I put a piece of copper on the vise, again, I'm going to put the T-piece on the fitting. I've not got to use any silicone spray or anything like that. These fittings are really good for it because they're not too tight until I use the gun. So what I can do is, if I push it on and mark the top of the fitting, I can take it off and I can see that I've got enough of the fitting, enough of the pipe inside the fitting. So I know it's okay. If I put it in halfway and use the press gun, it'll probably seal for a bit. And then eventually, because it's not fully in, it will work its way loose. So I can mark the end of the pipe like I did on the plastic, make sure it's fully home. I say these fittings are really good. I can tell when they're pushed fully home. So now, I'm going to use the press fit gun. This is the Bosch one. It's got a 15mm jaws in it. If I want to change the jaws to a bigger size, say 22 or 28, I pull that off, jaws come out, go to my toolbox or the box they came in and change the jaws. I can put them back in, lock it off, close it, and now I put it on the fitting. I've got a trigger inside the handle. I'm waiting for that noise, that sort of click to know it's done, but the ram comes back on for me, so I know when it's happened. To get it on the fitting, I use finger and thumb to open it up, and then put it on the top of the fitting. There is one way it should go on. Inside the jaws, there's a ridge, there's a groove, and that groove corresponds with the groove on the fitting. I can't put it too far on one way, but as soon as I put the press gun on it, it makes a big mark and it will probably leak. So if I put it on and then give it a wiggle home, I know that it's on. And I can see that it's ready to sort of press. I push the trigger. And then squeeze the jaws back, it comes off. Downside with these fittings is once it's on, it's fixed. You can't spin it around like a compression or the push fit John Guest. It's like a solder fitting. Once it's done and set in place, that's it. If I do another one for you, I put that end on, again hold it, pull the trigger. Comes off, I can see right away, it's not going to pull off, nice and tight. I can spin the head round if I'm in a certain situation, put the gun back on at any angle. Again, make sure the top of the fitting is in the groove, squeeze the button. Comes off, and again, all nice and tight, ready to go. Now these fittings, the press fit fittings, you can't use the John Guest fittings and the plastic pipe on gas, obviously. The gas will react with the pipe or react with the washers and we'll get a leak. Now these fittings you can use on gas, but the washer inside has got to be a yellow washer, a yellow O-ring, and there's normally a mark on them as well. So you can use this type of fitting on gas, but you've got to make sure you have the correct fitting with the correct colour washer for gas work. And if I show you how to do a compression fitting, on compression we have nut, compression olive, and then the fitting. Again, I've got to make sure it's full slip. There's a ridge on it, but compression is quite good. I can actually feel that we're full home. Again, if I wanted, I could mark the bottom of the pipe and I can see right away that the fitting's actually full slip. Now for compression fittings, I've got to tighten them up with the use of a spanner and a pair of grips. The reason I put the grips on here is to hold against myself. So all you do is finger tight and maybe half a turn, 3/4 a turn, and that is your compression fitting done. Also, if you go back to the push fit fittings, these also can go on copper. All we do with them is, again, just like the plastic, push it on, lock it off, and stays on. So now, I'm going to remove John Guest Speed Fit T-piece, and I'm going to replace it and solder a Yorkshire or a Soldering T. So again, to remove the John Guest T, I'll loosen off the nut until it stops, squeeze in the top ring, give it a twist, and comes out. So now, I prepare the pipe the exact same way as I prepared it for the end feed fittings. I get my cleaning pad, I give that a clean. I've got my 2 pieces of pipe, which I'm going to put in as well. Give them a clean, get all the tape, all the debris, any greasings on it. So I'll do the outside of the pipe, and then when I get the fitting, because it's 15mm, I can put the end of the cleaning pad in and hopefully get as much, if there's anything in there, cleaned off the edge of the fitting or the inside of the fitting and off the solder out. So when I look at this T-piece, if I look inside, I can just see on the outside, first of all, there's a bulge. This looks quite similar to the press fit T-piece, but inside, if I look inside, I've not got a neoprene washer. I've got a small silvery sort of solder ring inside the T-piece, already put in for me. So I get my active flux. Again, all I do is take off all the excess, make sure there's not too much on it. I put it on the pipe, some paint, and then again, push the T on, make sure it's pushed fully home. I get the other 2 pieces of pipe, do the exact same with them, put some flux on, last one, on top, give them a twist, that will spread the flux round a bit more evenly for me, and then I can get a rag or a cloth and wipe off the excess flux from the outside of the fitting so it doesn't burn and makes it, and so the solder can run a lot easier. So now again, using lead-free solder and the MAPP gas. Now I can put another bit of solder on it just to make sure, but I'll leave that just now and we can watch the fitting, and hopefully when I get the heat onto it, you will see the solder ring just coming out the fitting, and it's filled that gap between the wall of the pipe and the inside of the fitting. And I'll do that on the 3 joints I've got in this T-piece. So again, it's all about timing. As soon as I see it moving round, move on to the next end, and then the next end. So I put the gas on, I'm looking for it, and then we're getting there. I can see the flux coming out, and now I can see the solder. I can do the top one, and I'll see the flux coming out first, then the solder. Make sure it's all the way around, and then the last one, I'll do the same. It's a lot less. And once that is done, I put the gas bottle away, and then I check and I make sure the solder has gone right round the whole T-piece. If it hasn't, for talking's sake, on this end of the fitting, I don't think the solder's run right round. All I do is get the heat very quickly, put it back on where I want, and that's it done. So I can go over, when there's still some heat in the copper pipe, and go around it again, just to make sure. That wasn't me.